I'm going to turn it over to Alan here to introduce our speaker today. And thanks again, Mindy, for joining us. So Alan is a senior associate with Serenity Partners in the Cleveland office, where he delivers investment advisory services to his clients. Prior to joining Serenity, he was a relationship manager for PNC's private client group, where he was responsible for managing the banking, credit, and investment needs of the bank's affluent clients. Alan received his bachelor's of science degree in business economics from Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. And then within the Cleveland community, Alan is the president of the Miami University Alumni Association chapter and serves as the co-chair of the events committee for Young YACG. Alan?
Hey, thanks, Rob. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your patience, working through some technical difficulties. And also thank you, Mindy, for joining us. Welcome, YACG members, Miami alumni, and guests. Welcome to the Fireside Chat with Mindy Rich of Rich Products. Mindy is the perfect guest to bring the three worlds of Cleveland, Buffalo, and Miami University together. Cleveland, a place where Mindy and her husband, Bob, are civically involved and very rooted in the community. Buffalo, where Rich Products is headquartered, and a community that the Rich family has done so much for over the years. And Miami, although Mindy is not a graduate, she grew up in Southwest Ohio and has family ties to the university. Now, before we get started, I do want to just give an overview of the agenda. So our chat with Mindy will last about 50 minutes to an hour. By the way, thank you to everybody that submitted questions ahead of time for Mindy. That's going to make this event even better. This will be a casual conversation. Mindy has agreed to take questions on the fly. So if you have anything that you want to ask or bring up, please enter it into the chat box. We'll unmute you and have you ask the question from there. After our closing remarks to the Fireside Chat, those interested in sticking around for some networking and breakout rooms will have the opportunity and are welcome to do so. And then we'll include the entire event by 1:30. All right. As vice chairman and a managing shareholder of Rich Products Corporation, Mindy Rich shares responsibility for oversight, governance, and the overall vision and strategic direction for Rich Products Corporation. Mindy joined the company in 1985 and currently serves on the corporate board of directors for Rich Products Corporation and as chairperson of the board's finance and audit committee and compensation and organization committee. In addition, Mindy serves as executive vice chairman of Rich Entertainment Group, responsible for overseeing the organization's baseball, theater, and restaurant and travel interests. Mindy is a member of the corporate board of directors and the nomination, compensation, and governance committee for M&T Bank Corporation, the board of directors of Grove Entertainment, and the senior advisory committee for BDT and Company LLC, and is a member of the Cleveland Clinic Board of Trustees, serving on the research and education committee. Mindy is a trustee, member of the executive committee, and co-chair of the marketing committee for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum. She is active in a wide range of charitable organizations. Mindy resides in Isla Mirada, Florida, with her husband, Bob, and 2 dogs. She enjoys fly fishing, international travel, and gourmet cooking with a genuine love for music and theater. Hello, Mindy. Sorry about those technical difficulties up front. How are you today?
Alan, I'm good. It seems to happen these days. I want to say hello to everybody who's joining us today, and thank you for this. I too thank you all for my questions. I have stopped doing speeches. I said to Alan when he asked me if I'd do this, I said, the only way I'll do it is if you tell me what people want to hear or know, because I don't want to pretend that I know what's interesting to all of you. So I appreciate that. I look forward to hearing from you and keeping this as informal as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you again for taking the time. Obviously, from your bio, you are an incredibly busy person, very much accomplished. But before we talk business, tell us a little bit more about Mindy, the person. You mentioned a few of your hobbies. What else do you enjoy doing?
Well, what do I enjoy doing? I spend a lot of time on Zoom calls like everybody else these days. I am 63 years old. I've been married for 36 years with kids, grandkids, dogs, spend as much time as possible with family. A little challenging this year with COVID, as everyone knows, but we've managed to try to figure out ways to do this. I grew up in Cincinnati. You know, that's part of my tie to Miami. I've got my nephew, who is your friend, who asked me to do this, who graduated from Miami, is why I'm with you here today. But growing up in Cincinnati, my family, I grew up in a family food business. So that kind of set the tone for what my life was going to be all about. I had a father who was an incredible role model and included us in talks about the business from around the table, bringing home products for us to try, and really feel like part of my life was being part of the business, even though I was young. I had a grandmother who ran a business, so I had a wonderful woman as a role model. I went to work with her every Saturday at her store for most of my elementary school years, and prepared me well for the life as I know it today in many ways.
Yeah. To kind of look at the overall career, you won an award, and I'm going to use air quotes in here, but in 2019, you received the Women's Food Service Forum Titan Award. So you haven't always been a business titan, if you will. What was it like growing into your current role, and what were some challenges that you faced along the way?
Interestingly, when I think of the challenges I faced, it usually was at some kind of milestone or a deciding point. I don't know about all of you, but you go along and you work hard, and there's lots of challenges day to day. But it's those moments when you have to make a decision on your career track, oftentimes, that are the most challenging. And for me, I always had a plan A and a plan B, and usually went in neither direction. I was always very opportunistic about what came up and what made sense, believing that, there was a path I was going to make the right path no matter what it was. So I think that's the case. So, one big challenge was getting married to my husband. I was on a different career path and deciding that made sense not to work anywhere else than with him at Rich Products. Rich Products is a family food business as well. And, I decided to after we got married, that it would make sense to change my career path and join the company. And I'm very happy I did. I love it, and I've loved it ever since.
Yeah, this is a kind of a sidebar question. I apologize for that. But what's it like being in a family business? I'm sure it has challenges, and you have a large family. It's also maintained success for many years.
So we're a 75-year-old company. Yeah, right. 75 years of family run, family owned. Again, having grown up in the food business and in a family business, I had insights and perspectives that probably would not have had if I wouldn't have grown up that way. But I mean, Rich's is close to a $4 billion company. We're international, and we have made decisions that it should be professionally run, that it doesn't, just because your name is Rich doesn't mean we have to have Rich as CEO or running the company. And we have had non-family members. Our first non-family family member CEO was a guy by the name of Bill Giesel, who was in the role for, I guess, I can't remember, 12 to 18 years, something like that. And now Richard Ferranti runs the company as our CEO. So, part of growing and maintaining the success of family business is being able to do what's right for the business, and also figure out how to make sure that that's right for the family. And our belief is that a strong, healthy business is the best for all of us, for all the families that have signed on to be part of Rich Products. We've got, close to 15,000 associates around the world, and they all have families. So our responsibility as stewards of the business is to keep the company healthy for all of our families' families.
Sure. I don't feel I'm the appropriate person to ask this question, but it is Women's History Month. Both the Association of Corporate Growth and Miami Alumni have groups dedicated to women in business. Shout out to Women in Transactions and Miami Women's Network. Can you talk a little bit about your experiences as a woman in leadership and in business? How has it changed over the years? What kind of different perspectives do you bring to those sort of seats?
Well, I'll tell you, Alan, as I said, I'm 63 years old. Back in the day when I started my career, there was usually one woman or two women that were at the table, so to speak, in roles that in the business world. And you know what I've found that's changed a lot, which I really appreciate and I think is wonderful. Back in those days, sadly, because it was usually only one woman, women were competitive with each other. They weren't supportive of each other. So you found that if it was going to be just one, there was not the same kind of networking and opportunities for women helping women and to be supportive like we are today, which is a huge change and a very positive thing. I can tell you, being in business is like baseball and some of the other activities I've been in, I oftentimes was the only woman in the room. I remember going to a meeting from we own minor league baseball teams, and this was a meeting of all the owners and executives. I think there were about 300 people in the room, and it was important. We were negotiating with Major League Baseball in a collective bargaining way. And about an hour into the meeting, my husband taps me on the shoulder and says, "Mindy, do you realize you're the only woman in the room?" And I looked around, I said, "No, I really didn't." So for me, a lot of the ways I operated was just didn't really focus on my gender. I just felt like I was going to do the best job I could do and, move forward and move ahead. So, part of it was just not focusing on that. But, I think that what's important, the other, I'll stop because this is a topic, of course, I talk about regularly to a lot of women's groups, so I could take up the whole time, answering questions or talking about this. I will tell you the other thing I've noticed, and I don't know if, some of the women that are on the phone, if this will resonate with them or not, but I've noticed throughout my career that women have not been as confident about taking on new opportunities and risk as some men have. I have found myself pushing the women at Rich Products to take a chance. They are when they're doing a good job in one area and there's an opportunity for an advancement or a lateral move to grow and change, there seems to be sometimes more hesitancy. So I encourage women oftentimes in our company to take that chance, to take that risk, to move ahead and try different things and to grow and prove yourself, even if you don't feel confident that you are ready for that next role.
That's great perspective. Again, I'm sure we could talk the entire time, and I would love to maybe catch up another time and talk about the initiatives. And as we work with pushing those initiatives, both in the organizations that I'm a part of, but my office space as well. So thank you for sharing that perspective. This group you are speaking to, at least the YACG side of it, is primarily involved in the M&A strategic investment space. We'd like to touch a little bit about your experience there. You have a couple different companies that you operate and run, and these companies do different things. How have you steered your companies through decision-making around the M&A and investment process?
Well, you have to know, in the 75 years of Rich Products history, we've made 60 acquisitions. And so part of our strategy is growth by acquisition. So it has become part of our, when you have practices and you look at what you need to do, it's not an exception. It's more of something that we're well geared up and manage what to do well. So, it all starts with the strategic directions. Why are we making acquisitions? We've made acquisitions in the past to consolidate, roll-up strategy. We've done it for growth in diversification, where sometimes Rich Products Holdings is a portfolio company. So diversification in our segments, in our channels, in our businesses. We primarily are in the food business with a few little side trips, but in all different areas and channels, which again, with COVID has proved to be a really wonderful strategy for us, because we're in consumer products, we sell to bakeries, in-store bakeries, and we sell to food service, and we're around the world. So while some of our divisions were struggling mightily during COVID, others were flourishing. So that balanced portfolio really helped make a difference in seeing us through this year. Strategic fit, targeting companies, looking at where we want to go. We have made it, a lot of our acquisitions, interestingly, have been other family businesses and privately held companies. When companies like them reach a point that they want to sell, they don't necessarily always want to go public or go to a major corporation where they're just going to be, their life's work is not going to necessarily be appreciated in the same way. So oftentimes we're the alternative. And a lot of times when we buy companies, if, for example, sometimes the founders or the older members of the company want to move on, but they have a son or a daughter who's involved and wants to stay involved. Oftentimes they'll stay working with us. We've had whole families that have come to work for us or with us at Riches as we've grown. I think the thing that oftentimes, if you're not, I guess, fluent is in acquisitions, you don't do a lot of them, the importance of the assimilation is oftentimes not emphasized enough. I mean, we have really learned over the years how to assimilate a new company, where to, how to evaluate, when to bring in shared services, when to merge systems, how to culturally deal with that connection. I mean, there's so much to it. And that really makes all the difference in an acquisition. That, and another role is we don't overpay. We are a privately held company. We like to say, we play with real money. So, we have set a target or set a high end, a ceiling of how much we're going to pay. And we've walked away or lost a lot of acquisitions along the way. And we're fine with that because it's got to be the right price. So that might be more than you expected out of the question, but that gives you a perspective.
I've been part of organizations in the past where when you acquire, bringing cultures together can be a challenge. Is there a secret sauce, or what have you guys found success in when bringing two different companies that have different cultures and bring them a part of yours, making them a part of yours?
I think, first of all, we spend a lot of time on culture at Riches. We build our culture. We learned a long time ago, I think in 1991 was when we first started paying attention to describing our culture, building our culture, sharing our values as a company internally. We were like a giant entrepreneurship. And the more we grew, we found out that people didn't know the values that were in our heads because we were too big to be able to share. So you had to do it in a way that now I think most every company has, missions and, values and whatever, but we really spent a lot of time in reinforcing, training, and helping people see that they're real and authentic. I mean, our values our values help create our behavioral expectations for our leaders, for our associates. And that's part of the deal is, you join Riches, this is what we expect in terms of behaviors and behaviors of how we treat each other. And so I think when we look at companies for acquisitions, first of all, we evaluate, what their situation is and how to bring them on board. Some of them are already closer in alignment than us, others aren't. And again, internationally, what we've found is our values are pretty resonate with most everybody. It doesn't matter what country or what company. If you're authentic and genuine and you really live by your values, it's pretty easy to bring people along.
Yeah, that's a good transition too. You are an international company. You're operating in more than 100 countries worldwide. What are some challenges of being an international company? You work with different, you have operations in China, you have operations in Africa. Are there challenges dealing with on the governmental side? And what are your thoughts on kind of the future global economy?
Well, let's start with the second one first, and then I'll go backwards. I think the global economy is here to stay. I mean, any talk, when you just think about global communications, are we ever going to not have global communications, that's done, that's happening. So whatever shape global commerce is going to take, it will take some shape and form, and business people have to adjust, and businesses adjust to governments, to circumstances, to pandemics, whatever. We all adjust as we go to factor that into how we deal. So for example, COVID hit in January in China. So we were dealing with COVID before people were even talking about it here. We understood it. We were living it in Korea. So but it helped inform what we were going to do in the US because we already had experience with it in Asia. So, those kind of realities are there. In terms of how we do this, there's a very simple strategy that we have lived with since we went international, which was many, many years ago. We were early on in a lot of countries. And it's think global, but act local, because every market is different, especially when it comes to food. We make different formulas of the same product for every country we're in because that matches the taste profile. The other difference with us that most people don't understand, we manufacture locally for that market or that region. We're not exporting and importing. The only time we do that is to build a market. We'll usually go in, build the sales, build the market, see if there's opportunity, and then go to bricks and mortar from there. So our international strategy is very, very local. On the other hand, we have so many shared resources and shared services that we can bring to each market to, for a simplification, best practices, purchasing power, whatever. We try to bring the best of both worlds together.
So I guess how you guys operate on an international front, do your different operations in these different countries, are you in constant communication with them, or do you kind of let them do what they need to do, look at the numbers, and if things need to change, how do you implement those changes?
It's very much local management. That's like anything else. We have local management that runs the day-to-day, that are involved making decisions. But there is an overlay, a corporate overlay, that the different groups, for example, health and safety, there'll be health and safety protocols that are expected, but then you also look at what's the laws or the rules are locally. They might change or vary. So we are very much entrepreneurial in that regard. I would say we're very hands-off, and we have local management. Most of our all of the people who run their businesses live in those countries. They're not being run from Buffalo.
Right. Thank you. Well, we'll bring it back domestically. You are involved in the Rock Hall here, Cleveland Clinic here locally. How did you get involved in Cleveland?
Well, it's funny. I think throughout my life, I've had a tie to Cleveland. I went to summer camp when I was younger, and I had a best friend who was from Cleveland. And so we used to do home and aways back when I was in high school, where I'd come visit. She went to Cleveland Heights High School, and I used to come visit her go to her school with her. She'd come to mine. So we had, I feel like Cleveland was always a close tie to my life. I dated a guy from Cleveland when I was in college, who ended up moving to Cleveland for that way before, years ago. And then, we got involved in the Cleveland Clinic. My mother-in-law was a patient, a grateful patient there. She had her heart surgery there. And it turned out that my husband's fraternity brother, who he had known throughout his school life, was a heart surgeon who became the CEO of the Cleveland Clinic, a guy by the name of Toby Cosgrove, where some of you may know or know of. And so we reconnected and got involved with the clinic after that. And somehow that led, interestingly, I was asked to go on the Rock Hall board even before I had anything to do with Cleveland Clinic. And I can't remember why. Somebody who was involved with Rock Hall knew of my love for music and asked me. And at that point I said no, because I had so many other things going on. But once once we were involved with the clinic, it helped me make they asked again if I'd get involved in the Rock Hall, and I said yes, and I love being a part of it all.
Yeah. When you look at your bio and you look at the things that you enjoy doing, was that the inspiration for Rich Entertainment?
No, I think Rich Entertainment started with baseball. We got involved, we were always civic minded and involved with minor league baseball team was was threatening to leave. It was a community owned team, and they needed an owner, and the mayor actually called my husband and said, would you consider buying the minor league team and getting involved? And that's what got involved in baseball. We were also owners of the Savers at the time. So sports were probably the first step. And then a travel company, we ended up with a travel agency that we bought and created and built on. And we had a variety of other businesses. We owned radio stations for a while. I ran radio stations at one point. And it all of a sudden, if you looked at piecing it all together, we put it under this umbrella of the Rich Entertainment Group, which now includes theater and golf course and all sorts of variety of and some restaurants. We never wanted to go in competition with our customers, but we thought it would be a really good idea. You can understand their business when you run your own restaurant and you understand what's going on. So we have some restaurants in the mix too.
Yeah. My dad told me a story about Bob back in the 80s with his attempt, because you guys tried to bring a major league franchise to Buffalo at one point.
That was my first job at Rich Products.
Yes. And
what I did was put together the presentation to Major League Baseball to get us a team. And we didn't get a team, but I still have a job. How about that?
Now, is it true that the baseball stadium in Buffalo was built to easily form into a major league park?
Yeah, it was the first new old ballpark. It was then called Pilot Field. It's now called Salem Field. It was the model for all of the new old ballparks that are out there. And if you've been to Baltimore, if you've been to White Sox, if you've been even Cleveland, that was the model. HOK were the architects, the same architects that have done almost all the others. And our whole philosophy was it was built to expand if we got the team. But it was an economic development project for downtown Buffalo. The mayor was very high on, helping to create an anchor, so to speak, for downtown. And the ballpark was that. It was the beginning of the renaissance of this area for baseball. So there was a lot of civic mindedness involved in doing all this, and we ended up not getting the team, and worked out just fine.
It's a great minor league market, Buffalo is, and they've really, they look back to the 90s when I started being a fan of the Bisons, keeping up with attendance and really driving it for us. And who knows what will happen with the Bills Stadium downtown. So we can go on a tangent of Buffalo, which I won't do, but it has the possibility of being a really inclusive area of sports and entertainment, potentially in the near future. So bright things to come. Now you look at cities like Buffalo, like Cleveland, Rust Belt cities, the common narrative seems to be that they're falling behind, or the glory days are 50 years in its past. What do cities like Buffalo, like Cleveland, because they're very similar cities at the heart of things, what do they have to do to change that narrative, keep pace with your larger growing metros across the country?
I don't know that they should. My own philosophy, I've been involved in a lot of economic development projects for Buffalo. I was very involved in rebuilding our waterfront. I did that for 9 years between our ballpark being downtown. I actually came to Cleveland when we were first looking at what to do for redevelopment for downtown Buffalo. I literally came to Cleveland to study what Cleveland did. Got to know we were invited as a group to come. And I guess I don't think that it should be looked at as a competition among how to keep up, how to do what other people are doing. I think it's very important for communities like Buffalo and Cleveland to play to their strengths, look at what you have and what you could be, And don't worry about what else is going on out there. You know, part of it is, and I think for Buffalo, I don't know about Cleveland, but what Buffalo's experiencing, we might not have had in the old days, we didn't have a boom, but we haven't had a real serious bust. We just kind of move it along at a steady pace. And Buffalo's doing pretty well right now in terms of every year, something else is coming along and we're doing more and doing better. And, you know, it's what are your strengths? What does Cleveland have to offer? How do you build off of that? How do we do the same thing in Buffalo? How do you create synergistic opportunities? Part of it is good planning. I think planning is really key, but part of it is being opportunistic. Mm-hmm. For example, you know, we're right now, our corporate headquarters is on Niagara Street, which is on the Niagara River. And downtown Buffalo has flourished, it's booming. And we did the waterfront, which was right on downtown Buffalo. And if you turn the corner and come up the river, that's Niagara Street. Well, Niagara Street is being developed right now, slowly but surely, with, you know, with individuals, entrepreneurs, with the idea of, you know, how do we build off of each other? And we had an opportunity. We own some land that was a plant that we, an old plant that was raised. It was a big shovel-ready site, and we had an opportunity, weirdly, to have a movie studio built right across from us on our land. We ended up selling them the land, and we've got this great movie studio plan that's going to come, that's going to happen. A company called Great Point Media announced last year that they're going to build a studio. Well, guess what? There's all sorts of film businesses cropping up in Buffalo. This is going to be one of them, but I don't think if anybody would have thought, oh, 10 years ago, let's make Buffalo a filming hub, it would happen. But people started building on each other. There's tax breaks in New York for the film industry. There's a lot of things that come together to make it an opportunistic situation.
It all goes back to the natural, right? 86, whatever year that movie came out.
It was 83. It was the first year I moved to Buffalo. That's how I remember.
I mean, Cleveland is going through a similar renaissance. When you look at Fast and the Furious was filmed in downtown Cleveland. There's a very in one of the Avenger movies where downtown Cleveland is actually portrayed as down like Munich, Germany, I believe it is, or some German city. And there it is, Terminal Tower right in the background. You have the Huntington Building, but they blur out the top. So it's interesting that, you know, these cheaper locations are opening up to be equivalents for either large cities or international cities. And you get that outdoor experience as opposed to, you know, green screens all over the place, and then having that sort of opportunity, like a film studio with all the major productions and whatnot, to kind of come full circle. It seems like a really cool opportunity for a smaller, you know, non-Hollywood-esque kind of city.
Yeah, and you look at Cleveland, between the Cleveland clinics and University Hospital, you know, there's a big medical, I think the medical businesses are popping up and surrounding that, because you've got assets there that make that an opportunity. And that's what I mean by being opportunistic. What do you do to build off of the strength you have with these great, wonderful medical institutions to continue to grow in those segments?
Yeah, it's been, I feel like every year there's a new headline of a high rise going up near the clinic. And that is kind of becoming you look at cities like Atlanta or cities like even like Midtown, Uptown Manhattan, and Cleveland having an opportunity to grow out that corridor and have it be a life center. There's so much to do by the clinic and University Circle areas, and now all of a sudden people are seeing the opportunity to move there, and they're building up high rises, and businesses are coming back, and it's part of that just Cleveland renaissance, and the medical community is such a big part of that, with being anchored by Cleveland Clinic. So it seems like the future is really bright in that sort of area. Looking at baseball, the Toronto Blue Jays, for those that don't know, here in Cleveland. So the Toronto Blue Jays were homeless coming into their 2020 season. They ended up landing in Buffalo to play in front of no fans, unfortunately. Can you share, whether it's Toronto Blue Jays or just the behind the scenes of what was going on in those major league conversations during COVID, and then also on the minor league front too. What were your experiences on the front lines there?
Well, first of all, it's interesting. All things point back to Cleveland. Our relationship with Toronto, the Blue Jays, actually began with Mark Shapiro, who was with the Cleveland Indians. And when we first met Mark, we affiliated with the Cleveland Indians in Buffalo for our AAA team, and he was the head of the farm system. So we have a long history with Mark and a great relationship with Toronto in many ways because we have such a long history with him. So, that's part of the dynamic. I think when it looked like baseball was going to happen, and COVID is a blur in terms of the timeline and what happened when, but when it looked like baseball was going to happen, could happen. And then the reality is that, players be able to go back and forth across the border and play in Toronto, the Blue Jays needed an alternative. And again, we did not expand our stadium as we would have to create a major league stadium, but they came in with a team of architects and designers and folks and looked at what they would need to do to not only satisfy the needs of a major league team, but also the COVID needs, because there were so many restrictions put on. So it was this whirlwind of activity. I can't even tell you, but in a matter of weeks, they put in all this temporary, it was all temporary, changed everything around. We've kept some of it, but for the painting but for the most part, transformed the ballpark. And we were like, wow. For me, we never once got to go to a game. Bob and I were, restricted as well as everyone else. So, but it was really cool every single night to turn on the television and watch a Major League Baseball game being played in our ballpark in Buffalo. So we did bring Major League Baseball to Buffalo, maybe not in the same way as an expansion team, but we sure enough got them.
I know that was that's something that was really important to you, and there was a great article in the Buffalo News just about the history of baseball in Buffalo and your contributions to it. Was it, I would imagine, stressful or heated conversations? And I know Toronto's looking at Pittsburgh and Florida and all these other cities.
No. I think they were just looking at their options, and they realized in the end that the best option was where they ended up, and that's with us. Don't forget, most of their players who are on the big league club, cut their teeth in Buffalo. They all played there, so they know that ballpark. They know the lines. That's a competitive advantage when you're playing in a home field. Well, this was their home field. So, and their record, I can't remember specifically what the record was, but I guarantee, but I tell you, their home record was way better than their record on the road.
Yeah. As far as structured questions, that's all I have. I could obviously talk to you for hours on end of all the different things that you're a part of. I would love to open it up to the room, and if anybody has a question that they'd like to ask Mindy, please step forward, answer in the chat box, and we can certainly unmute you and let you talk. See if you. Oh, TJ, you have a question?
Yeah, appreciate the time, guys. Appreciate the conversation, Alan and Mindy. It's good to hear the dialogue there. So, Mindy, I'm also from Cincinnati. I started work for Marathon Petroleum actually before my current role, and spent first 2 years of my career selling offerings to C-store operators, which included Rich Donuts, as well as for-real machines. So I don't think you owned the for-real machine at the time that I was doing that, but very familiar with the Rich Donuts. Fresh to bake product. It's a hot item back in the day. I'm sure it still is, but my question, given that Rich is such a large private company, I come from a large corporation, a lot of activist pressure on the ESG front in terms of environmental, social governance. So number one, I'm curious if you're getting an impact being a private company in that space, and kind of to piggyback off of that, you look at Rich's products, and given the whole health buzz in the industry today, is it kind of a silent approach that you guys are taking of not going and diversifying into the health products, consumable products, or is it something that you guys see yourself getting into in the future?
Let me answer both questions differently. One of the things that we have learned, again, being the size and scope that we are, is how to learn from publicly traded companies and larger companies. I've been on the board of a couple of different publicly traded companies over time. We stay close to what's happening, and our executives definitely do. So we learn from what's happening and take the best of what they're doing to apply to what we're doing. So all of the ESG and all of this, we've got that all incorporated into our business in the same way. We've got a head of sustainability, we've got, director of diversity. We're definitely doing the right, and quite frankly, we do that because it's the right thing. Whether you don't have the political pressure that a publicly traded company does, again, we have values, and one of our values is do the right thing. And that's the right way to, and again, having been global for as long as we have exposure and diversity in a way that other domestic companies might not have had the opportunity to enjoy over the years. So I think that answers that one. As far as better, I would call them better for you products at this point in time. Who knows how far it goes, but yes, we have been innovating and creating better for you products for quite a while. We've got a fantastic, I haven't even got to try it yet, but I hear it's amazing soft serve oat milk ice cream that people are raving about. We do cauliflower crusts, gluten-free crusts, plant-based crusts, all for pizza, a huge product line for us. You probably even eaten them and don't know it. One thing about being in the food service business, our products are an ingredient oftentimes for a restaurant, and you might not know it's ours, just like those donuts. But no question that we are full on. We bought a company called French Meadow years ago. We were ahead of the curve on gluten-free, sprouted, things that, that were better for you, for some people back then. So that's a segment for us for sure. There's only one thing that matters when you do these kind of products. You know what it is? You're going to guess?
So
They have to taste good. You can do all the good, better for you products, but if they don't taste good, people won't eat them.
Yeah.
Do you guys have internal tasters? How does that work? Sorry.
What?
Do you have a team of internal tasters? Is there a scale? How do you know if something tastes good?
Panel. We have people that come in and they're graded by super tasters, and some people, and we bring people in. We have a whole sensory lab where people come in. I can promise you, if we made products based on my taste, we probably wouldn't sell anything, because can't do things you like. You got to find out what other people like. And again, we do a lot of customizing, as I said earlier, depending on the market and depending on the people that are buying. You customize, and the customer, a lot of people want their recipes or their flavor profiles.
Sure.
No, I really appreciate that. I was just curious from a private company standpoint around that. To your earlier point, you use real money, right? So your feedback there is it's got to taste good. You're not just doing it to do it. Makes perfect sense. So appreciate the response there.
Mm-hmm.
TJ. Christine Millen entered a question in the chat. If Julia, if you wouldn't mind unmuting her.
Hi, Mindy. Quick question for you. What do you think are some key skills that women in particular should work on developing to succeed in leadership roles, and in particularly if they're in male-dominated industries?
So, okay, I use an expression that I have to explain because some people take it the wrong way. My belief is you fake it till you make it, for women especially. Men don't be offended by this, but a lot of times men, they do that anyway. That's part of the way they present themselves. And maybe a lot of younger women do. I'm talking about, specifically people. But what I mean by that is, if you don't, part of it is getting the skills and learning what you need yourself versus waiting for somebody to give them to you. I've always believed that learning is something you do for yourself, training is something other people do for you. And if you've taken on a role where there are, or you're in a situation where there's something you're not comfortable with or confident, figure out how to make yourself feel comfortable with it.
Mhm.
You know, when I went on a bank board, I wasn't a financial person, so to speak. I was marketing, and that wasn't my strengths. And I got tutored. You know, I found friends who were in that world to help me, you know, look at statements differently. I ended up writing down questions that I thought that, you know, might have been stupid, and waited. And then I found other people in the boardroom asking similar or same questions. And I was able to say, okay, well, maybe I'm getting this.
Mhm.
So I think, you know, for women, it's the skills to be able to say, I am strong enough and good enough to tackle this. And if what I don't know, I'm going to learn for myself. I think other leadership skills are across the board. I think authenticity in this day and age is really important in your style.
Mhm.
I think, you know, listening and learning and being open-minded to the possibilities, even if you're sure you've got all the answers. You know, I don't care if you're what gender you are.
Mhm.
That is, in today's world especially, the ability to collaborate means open-mindedness, listening, and being ready to change your mind if what you thought was the right way to go isn't anymore,
Mhm.
but also being decisive. You know, somebody's got to ultimately make the decision to move forward. And so being able to take it all in, weigh it, and then still make a decision and be confident in that decision is one of the key leadership skills in today's world that I think is important.
Thank you for the feedback. That's great.
Mhm.
We got a question from David Percy.
Hey, Mindy, can you hear me?
Hi, David. Yes.
How are you? I'm a credit analyst over at M&T Bank, calling in from Buffalo as well.
Uh-oh.
One of my favorite discussions on these calls, when we have people that look at so many opportunities as Rich's does, is what is an opportunity that maybe slipped away that you wish you maybe would have taken a longer look at? An example we've had before is we had Stuart Cole from Riverside Company lamenting about his passing on Burt's Bees. What's something along that vein that maybe you can talk about?
Okay, I'll tell you, for me, it's nothing that I feel like we missed from an acquisition standpoint that I still wish we would have gotten. You know, here's what one of the things. There was a book years ago by a guy by the name of Gary Hamel that has always I've always remembered, because he talked about that oftentimes when you're in a leadership position, you're not looking around behind you in the corners and people are coming up on you and pass you by. And a category that I really feel that we missed an opportunity with, you know, we invented non-dairy creamers. We called them non-dairy, but it's really plant-based. They're based on soy. So we've been in the plant-based business, soy business forever. And I remember from a consumer standpoint, we had this coffee-rich non-dairy frozen creamer. And all of a sudden these products like Silk came up. And there was this whole category of other new non-dairy products that were fresh, and they didn't call them non-dairy, again, plant-based. So I always joke, we were the first plant-based soy-based product. And we never really looked from a consumer standpoint of how to reinvent what we were doing to get us there. We're doing it now. We're not, most of our products are, our toppings and icings are plant-based to a certain degree.
That's fantastic. And sort of on the flip side of that, what's maybe somewhere where you think you took a risk and it really paid off?
I think we took a risk in expanding internationally. We were in China before, in a big way, without partners. We're in there by ourselves, no Chinese partners. I think we went in the 90s, early. We went into South Africa the first day we were allowed as Americans to go in. Korea, our international expansion as a food company, privately held, probably a lot of people wouldn't risk that, but that would be one for sure that I would say.
That's cool. Thanks, Mindy. Go Bills.
Did you see Alan's got the Bills on his back bar there, not just.
I'm double representing too. I try to hide that one so that people don't think I'm over the top, which I certainly am, but sometimes it's a bookend too. We do have a few, I know we started a little late, so we do have a time for a couple more questions if anybody does have one. Perhaps Amy? Yep. Julia, to Amy, is it Beg?
Yes, Amy Bay.
Beg. Thank you, Amy.
Hi,
No,
Amy.
hi, how are you?
I'm good.
No, I do have a question because you are, I'm sure, tackling issues with family in the business and how you might handle real or perceived issues that some non-family employees might have, feeling overlooked or reduced chance of advancement over family. So just curious how you address that overall.
So in our planning processes, we have been looking at that for over 20 years. So what we do, a whole separate family approach in terms of educating. We think educated shareholders and family members are really, really important. So we bring them into the business from an educational understanding the business. We want them engaged. So we set up programs for them to be able to interact. We have very clear guidelines and rules of what happens, what working family members versus non-working family members should expect from the company or should give back to the company. I mean, we have really spent a lot of time and energy, Amy, over the years helping to create that. Happy to say that our next generation, Bob and I are second generation, our third generation is hand in hand in working with us. And, we've got family retreats, we've got family meetings and creating all that. They're working with us hand in hand, almost taking a lot of that over now because we've got all these grandkids and nieces and nephews that are the next generation that are their kids that they need to be involved in. So, I think my husband did a really good job with our kids from day one saying, no one expects you to come to work for this business. This is a family business, but we want you to be educated shareholders and we want you to understand it. But we want you to be happy first. This isn't about coming to work for the family business. And if you do want to come for the work for the family business, you got to earn it. Here's what you got to do to qualify, So knock on wood, so far, so good. And it's something we constantly pay attention to and work on.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. I'm with BNY Mellon Wealth Management, and we do hold many family meetings. And as you were talking and about your community involvement, I wondered if you did hold these family meetings and have prepared a mission statement, much like you do with your company.
Oh, there's there's missions. There's a whole separate approach, but it also is in alignment. We make sure it's in alignment so that they understand both sides. And we want our executives to understand too. So it's and we listen a lot to what they want and what they need. I think that's part of it is, like you say, you don't tell them, you don't know. And so we're very open to bringing them in, and especially interesting now we've got all these grandkids that are in college. So we're very conscious of listening to what their hopes and expectations and wishes are to help formulate and give them back what they want versus just think we know,
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Amy. Now, Mindy, I want to be conscious of your time. We are 3 minutes over. Should we conclude, or are we open for one or two more questions?
You have one or two more questions? I'm happy to do it. I think it was my iPad that messed us up. So I'll take
technology, that's our greatest and worst enemy. If there's any other questions out there, we can open the floor.
Hey, Mindy, it's Dave Percy again from M&T Bank. Hey, just real quick, can't let you get away without asking, what's the future of food production? What's the next technology that we're going to be seeing coming out of Rich Products that maybe we don't know about yet?
If you find out, let me know. I mean, it is, things are moving so fast and furious. The good news is we have to eat. I think all this plant-based, you know, that's a whole new level of technology that who knows where that's going to lead to next. You know, it's just continually evolving. I think the impact of digital, and you know, we haven't talked about that at all yet, but as you know, within all of your businesses, the impact of digital technology is accelerated at a pace during COVID that all of us are trying to, you know, keep up with, grasp, and figure out what it means to our businesses. So I guess, you know, I think that there's a lot of digesting going on to keep up, and I think that's continuing. So let me know when you find it. I mean, there's so much. I don't know. It's just which one's going to be relevant to us yet. I can't predict at this point.
Great answer.
Mindy, I have 5 quick hitters for you, and they're on the fly. So number 1, favorite restaurant in Cleveland?
Oh, the one, shoot, why am I forgetting the name? I get the duck confit every time. La Patro.
Oh, good call. Over by the clinic, great. Favorite restaurant in Buffalo?
No, I can't say that.
Okay, we'll put you on the spot there. Favorite Broadway play?
Whichever one I'm producing next.
Spoken like a true business person. I love it. And then last one. Is there anybody that you've met in your life that you were actually nervous to meet the first time you met them?
Yes, Cincinnati folks, you'll get this. I am, you know, listen, in baseball, I always say it's in your birth contract to be a baseball fan, right? And so when I first got into baseball, I've known a lot. I was always a baseball fan, loved it. And we started going to the winter meetings and I met like all the baseball superstars, and I'd known Johnny Bench, and I'd known Pete Rose, and I'd known everybody, right? And you get to a point, you know, you're not intimidated or nervous at all. Well, we were affiliated with the Detroit Lions and I mean the Detroit Tigers. And at that point in time, Sparky Anderson was the manager, and they all knew I was from Cincinnati, and they seated him next to me at our organizational dinner. And I was just like a fangirl again. I was just like, yeah, I was like, I didn't know what to say. And everybody, my whole baseball, everybody was like, what is up with this? I mean, she's been with Mickey Mantle and doesn't have, you know, it was Sparky Anderson. And I don't know why, but that was it. I guess growing up in Cincinnati, he was such an icon.
Yeah, that's great. It's funny that you've been around the world and there's still people that make you blush. That's great. Well, that's all I have. That's all we have. Thank you again, Mindy, one last time for spending time, a very intimate conversation. I would also like to thank the members of Mindy's team, Danielle, Bettina specifically, and Kevin Amon for helping coordinate this. Also the ACG team, Julia Zettel producing, and the Miami alumni side of things with Emily Lefevers. Shout out to Alex Roth, a Miami alum and a good friend of mine, for introducing and facilitating the connection. So thank you, Alex. Cheap plug for any future ACG Cleveland or Miami Cleveland events. Go to the respective websites for those organizations. Mindy, I'll let you get back to your busy day. For those that want to stick around for a little Q&A meet and greet session, please do. And once again, thank you, Mindy, and I hope to talk soon.
Well, thanks to all of you. Thanks for your great questions. And I hope you got a chance to get some lunch. Take care.
Thanks, Mindy.